Hello and welcome to the 2M Gaming Studios channel. Today I just want to be talking through just a real simple red science layout. And I guess before we get to that, just kind of walk through my setup here. This is a kind of a beginner's basics series I'm going to be doing. So just to start off, I kind of wanted to show kind of my setup uh, with my furnaces and how I'm kind of feeding it in and how that kind of ties into the bus, and I'll kind of describe that. If you're just looking for the red science, you can skip ahead a little bit. I'll be pretty direct about that, but just for the first video, I kind of wanted to show the my setup in case you're kind of getting into the game. You can see here I'm just feeding in iron ore directly from an iron ore patch, and I've got copper coming in from down here. It kind of worked out how they're feeding in, but one thing I kind of like to keep it clean. So you can see here I've got this is my very beginning setup. I've got 10 furnaces for each going right now, but I'm bringing in 2 lines of iron on each side here, and I have both of these pushing out into just a single uh, um, transport belt. And my goal here is trying to keep everything kind of nice and compact. I may grow this out another, I don't know, 10 or 15 up this way, and then I'm going to start going out to the side and probably do the same thing with copper, kind of grow it up a little bit and then go out to the side as my demand increases. And then it's kind of feeding into the bus here, and for those of you who are new, the bus kind of refers to your central line that you can start pulling your different resources off of. So I'm pretty new, so I don't know the exact perfect ratios, but one thing I found that's worked good for me is I run 4 iron and 4 copper. Right now, as I expand out, I'm going to be running different lines of iron in. Right now I'm just with 1 because I'm really only automating just a few things, and kind of feed this up. So this 4 would be copper, this 4 would be iron, and it runs up here, and you can tell for the first, actually for my red science, is my first actual split, to where I'm actually splitting off from my iron and then feeding it with undergrounds across and over, and I do the same thing with copper right here and feeding over. And so my setup, I'm shooting for 1 per second, which it actually works out. If you look at the requirement, it takes 5 seconds to create 1 pack. So if you're trying to do 1 per second, ideally you'd have 5 assembly machines. I went ahead and did 6 just because it kind of worked out better with my cogs, whatever you call it, wheels, gears, to feed in. And so the way this kind of worked was I needed basically 1 gear, 1 copper per pack. So every 5 seconds I need at least 1 gear, 1 copper. And the way I'm doing this can actually make takes two plates, but it pumps out 1 gear every half a second. So you can see here on the bottom side for my gears, I'm actually pushing in with 2 inserters into these, so it's constantly going. And I'll clear out the backlog here in a second just to show you it running. I just kind of wanted to walk through it, and it only takes 1 copper, so I've just got 1 pulling into here. And then you can kind of see how I'm feeding my belts here. I'm starting it out with an underground, feeding over to here. So this one puts out to here, feeds it to here. This one puts out on top of this one, on top of this one, and so it just kind of weaves in and out and pushes out all the way down here. And the way I kind of have this set up now, I can keep running it out, as far this way as I need to. So if I want to start doing 2 per second, I can just double this, 3 per second, so it's really easy to kind of keep growing out. This is my basic setup right now. I'll do something a little more advanced later on, and I'll make a video on that. But I just want to clear this out for right now, just to kind of show you guys how what it looks like when it gets really pumping. And this is still just some of the backlog coming through. Okay. And so you can kind of see here, and this is what I kind of like to look for, is this one, is there any downtime in it? So as this one finishes, so boom, it's rocking and rolling again. And as this one comes through, see, it's still kind of waiting. And so what it's waiting on is actually for this to finish. So that's kind of what I wanted to do, is just to make sure that this is always going. So which I feel like this setup's pretty adequate to keep these running. And it should be about 1 per second. Let's see if you can kind of eyeball it. 1, 2, kind of a gap there. 2 right there. So it's not perfect, but I'd say it's probably pretty close. Actually, what is the button? So you can kind of see your output here. So per minute. So you'd be hoping. So that's a little low. You'd probably want to see that closer to 45. So just because your assembly machines, it may say it's 5 seconds. They're not quite 100% efficient. I can't remember exactly where you see the. Okay, so half. So okay, so it's not quite 100% efficient. So I'm not quite getting the 1 per second that I'm after, but I could easily just expand this out another, probably 2 to get that 1 per second. Right now I'm not really needing that much red. So I'm not in dire need to expand it just yet, but I mean, down the road I will be, as the research demands go up, I will be expanding this greatly, and then also improve it on my science build here. But anyway, that's it for this first video of the kind of the beginner basics series that I'm going to be doing. The next few videos will kind of be showing you a green circuit setup, and also just some tips on how to automate just little things you don't think about but are very important. That's kind of the purpose of the game, is what you want to automate. But okay, well, if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and I will catch you next time.